Hey guys, it's your Peacekeeper coming at you with the next video in our How to Play series on the US Cruiser line. This is the Tier 4 Phoenix Class Cruiser. Before we dive on into this, I just want to apologize in advance if it sounds like I'm drunk or high or otherwise just not with it. I need to ask for your forgiveness because I've been up for 36 hours straight. I had to work overnight, turn around, had court all day, and then worked last night all overnight. So I've been up for 36 hours without any real sleep. So I apologize in advance for that. All right, let's dive on into the Phoenix. The Phoenix Class Cruiser is a design study for what would become the Omaha Class Cruisers, and as such, none actually existed in real life. None were built, none were ordered. Information is really scarce about the design intentions of the ship. However, we know from the Omaha Class Cruisers that the Omaha class was intended to be a scout class cruiser armed with 6-inch guns with relatively light armor to partially protect against those guns. They were to be reasonably fast and have a decent cruising range so that they could scout out in front of the main battle force as well as participate in combat with destroyers. And really, that's about the only information we have on it. The lineage is very easy to see. Going from the Phoenix to, say, the Omaha, you can see just how much of the ship carries over. They're nearly identical in profile, just a few minor changes that we'll talk about in the Omaha video. In terms of her in-game gameplay performance, this ship is a lot of fun to play, and I really have good synergy with the Phoenix. It's such a fun ship to play. You know, it has really good maneuverability. It's quick. And the best part about it, though, is the gun layout. You can see here, we have these 6-inch gun mounts. You can see there's 2 up here front, 1 in the middle, and then these 2 in the back. Well, that allows you to present a really narrow profile while advancing or retreating. And it makes this ship very difficult to kill. And it's a lot of fun. You can charge at enemy battleships, and there's a good likelihood that you'll get close enough to use the torpedoes that are on the side of the ship. And it just makes this ship a lot of fun to play because everybody expects you to kind of, run away from battleships and, you're a Phoenix, you've got this massive citadel. No, you can actually charge battleships with this thing, and with a reasonable degree of skill, if you kind of use the destroyer approach techniques where you stay angled and then kick the rudder as soon as you see the gun flash, you can actually get close enough to a battleship to take them out. And so that makes this ship a lot of fun to play. Of course, the other awesome part of having those torpedoes is the fact that you can get into close-in fights with other cruisers. And of course, being as this is a US cruiser, we have those lovely American piercing AP shells that have really good penetration numbers. And most of the ships in the Tier 3 to Tier 5 range, which is the most common range that Phoenix will actually engage other ships in, you can citadel those cruisers quite easily. And so this ship is actually a very effective cruiser killer. And then to top it all off, the high explosive has a reasonably good fire chance. And so this thing starts fires really well too. And so the Phoenix is really a lot of fun to play. It can be very frustrating because her major downside is the fact that her armor profile has this massive citadel here in the middle. And it's only covered by a really scant 3 inches of armor, 76 millimeters. And as a result, she tends to get citadeled a lot. And of course, you don't have a whole lot in terms of fore-end plating either, 10 millimeters, which really isn't stopping much in the way of enemy shells. So don't expect a whole lot in terms of being able to, say, bow tank enemy battleship shells. You certainly can with the... Actually, I don't even think you can with the 6-inch. I'd have to do the maths, but that math is really complicated. So, but the ship does, when angled, tend to bounce shells, And it does make the ship kind of fun to play and be real aggressive with, especially when it comes to other cruisers. You just gotta pay attention to what's going on around you and plan your turns accordingly so that you can make those turns without losing huge chunks of your hit points from enemy ships. And you also need to learn when you can and cannot actually, charge into the enemy fleet. Alright, let's dive on into the stats. She has 24,000 hit points. Her thickest armor is the belt, and that is that 3 inches, that's 76 millimeters. She has 10 6-inch guns. They are mounted in a really interesting configuration. Again, it's a 2-1-2 configuration on each side, or a 4-2-4 configuration, if you want to word it that way. That's kind of a weird way to word it. They have a 13.7 kilometer max range and a reload time of 7 seconds. And here you can see that HE fire chance is 12%. Now, this is without Demolition Expert. This is without inertial fuse for HE. So you don't have to worry about any modifiers there. And that's without any of the flags. So 12% is a really good chance. It only does 2,200 damage, but it adds up, and you start fires well enough that you can do reliable damage to capital ships. Of course, you've got AP for the smaller ships, the cruisers, and again, you can switch back to HE. And the guns are really quite accurate at 128 meters at that maximum range of 13.7 kilometers. She does have 2 sets of triple torpedo tubes. They are mounted at the rear of the ship. They have okay arcs. You do need to expose a reasonably large amount of the broadside to use them. I recommend using them in very limited situations in which you can kind of do drive-bys. That's probably the best way to use those. They have a 5.5 kilometer range, 56 knot top speed, and a 1.1 kilometer detection range, and they do 11,733 damage. In terms of anti-aircraft guns, she does have some anti-aircraft guns. However, they are really quite short range. The maximum is 3.1 kilometers. You do have 4 Browning 50 cal machine guns, the Ma Deuce. You got 2 of the Chicago Piano 28 millimeters, and then 4 of the 3-inch 50 cal Mark 10 AA guns. In terms of her max speed, it's 35 knots, 630 meter turning circle, 5.4 second rudder shift time. So she's got the destroyer turning circle with a little bit slower rudder shift time. Her concealment, and this is going to be with the captain that has Concealment Expert, is going to be 11.6 kilometers. It is 13.8, I believe is what it is without that, so it's just larger than your firing range, or 13.6. It's right around your main battery firing range. And her detection range by aircraft is 5.9 kilometers. Let's talk about the 2 upgrade slots that we have. Main Armaments Mod 1 is definitely what I would recommend. Yes, you're building your captain with preventative maintenance, most likely, if you follow my captain skill builds. So running the Auxiliary Arms Mod 1 isn't a good idea even with that, simply because there's no AA or secondaries on the ship to speak of. And so using Auxiliary Arms Mod 1 isn't a big deal. But that Main Armaments Mod 1 is going to reduce the chances of your torpedoes and main battery getting incapacitated, as well as increase their hit points and reduce the time it takes to repair them if they do get incapacitated. This second slot here, I've selected Damage Control Systems Mod 1, and this isn't old. I've had this cruiser since open beta. It's stayed in my port since open beta. I don't recommend Damage Control Systems Mod 1. I would definitely take either Propulsion Systems Mod 1 or Steering Gears Mod 1 for the reduction in those getting incapacitated, as well as decreasing their repair time further. Damage Control Systems Mod 1, it doesn't really add anything to the ship. You do get a reduction in the chance of fire and flood happening, but it's such a small chance, it's really not worth taking that skill over making your engines or rudders that much harder to take out. And of those 2, I would definitely recommend getting the Propulsion Systems Mod 1, simply because if your rudder gets taken out and you have, planned yourself correctly, losing your rudder isn't nearly as damning as losing your engine and being stuck stationary. Usually you can maneuver yourself to mitigate damage until the repair party consumable comes up. Speaking of repair party consumables, we also get the addition of Hydroacoustic Search. which has a range of 3.48 kilometers for ships and 2.52 kilometers for torpedoes. We will use this all the way up until we get to the Cleveland when we get defensive fire. So hydroacoustic search is something you can use, but just understand it's not something we're going to use a lot of. Anyway, enough of me rambling on about this ship. On to the battle video. Alright, so this battle is going to come out to be about 80,000 damage, which for a Tier 4 ship is doing pretty good, especially a Tier 4 cruiser. It is a Tier 3-4 fight, and it is going to be on the map Strait. Now, we spawn on the northwest side of the map, and I don't really... This map... I don't know what really to say about this map, because... Quite honestly, it's not my least favorite map, but this map emboldens one of the biggest complaints I have about the way Wargaming has set up maps in this game, and that's this idea of we've got all these big open spaces. Yeah, that works great if you're in a battleship or an aircraft carrier or a destroyer. It sucks when you're in a cruiser, especially in a low-tier cruiser that has a massive citadel, because you just take citadel hits from every angle, and there's no way to get away from that unless you've got a destroyer that's willing to smoke you up. And I'm playing by myself here, so I don't have really any guaranteed way to get smoke, relying on randoms. Pubs, in a pub match to actually deploy smoke for you is rare. It is possible to happen, but it is quite rare. And here you can see those gun arcs, and it's interesting because if you don't get the rearmost gun into play, which is the one that's down in that casemate, the lowest one at the rear of the ship, you will get the one that is actually on the upper part, but across from the number 2 turret. So if we're looking down the side, 1 is the one that's on the lowest deck up front, 2 is on the upper deck up front, 3 is in the middle, 4 would be the upper deck in the rear, 5 would be the lower deck in the rear. What you'll get is you'll get all except for the number 5, and you'll actually get the number 2 on the opposite side to show up. But you present this really narrow profile to bring all 5 guns to bear. So it's really easy to bring 5 guns to bear. And you can see here as I'm transitioning across, if you look down in the lower right-hand corner, there's the really narrow profile approach where you've got the number 2 on the opposite side playing in. And yeah, it's a really interesting gameplay style. And the best part about this is the Omaha kind of carries on that same tradition. Her gun layout is a little less... Well, you got turrets. You got 2 turrets, one at the front and one at the back, which kind of adds an interesting level of depth to it. And so map strategy for Strait. There's not a really good strategy if you're in a cruiser. You kind of got to play it by ear. Depends on who is on your team and what the enemy team is doing. I definitely recommend kind of waiting to see where the enemy goes before committing fully in one direction. Now, this Bogatir is forcing me to do something I really don't want to do, which is to sail broadside while detected. And so we want to be continuing to use our WASD key, use the maneuverability of the ship to your advantage. It's also going to throw off any aim for any torpedoes. Okay, so we've got ourselves our first enemy, a Kolberg. You can see we start off with 2,100 damage and a fire right off the bat. Like, wow. All right. Next salvo with HE. You'll notice I'm using HE, and that's because the Kolberg is a protected cruiser, so it's very difficult to actually achieve a citadel hit on one. So it's not worth using the AP. Your AP just overpens. You don't do nearly as much damage. And we are launching ourselves. And you can see here that just how easy it is to keep a reasonably good profile to everything and continue on about your merry way. Now we're going to switch ourselves to a South Carolina. And being as it is a battleship, you want to pick a profile that is either nose into him or kiting him, tail towards him. We wanted to pop our Hydra there to see those torpedoes. They come up, but just in time for us to really get a good dodge on them. And we are going to end up picking up... Oh, look, we've got ourselves a whole bunch of destroyers. And so one of the other interesting things that you can do with this is when you use your rudders to transition from left to right. If you plan your shots correctly, you can actually switch from left to right and right to left, and you can actually use all 10 of the guns that you have. And you can see there that this maneuver that I did actually helped me dodge some of these torpedoes, and so that was really quite handy. Also, we're going to go ahead and launch some torpedoes at where we think this Isakaze is going to be. We're going to launch him way out there. That South Carolina fired at me with all of his guns, so I'm not too terribly worried about his guns right at this moment. We certainly have enough time to actually bail. There you can see they just came up at the last minute. And the Isakaze eats a torp. Bam! Alright, so we're off to a good start. We've got ourselves our server average damage here, 21,447 damage, and ticking on up. And can't complain about that, but it also comes with a dev strike and a sink, so we can't complain too much. And we're just going to continue to WASD. I'm in a little bit of a pickle here with the way that these torpedoes are lining up. Like, oh, thankfully those torpedoes die out before they become too much of a problem. And another fire started, that 12% there. Okay, so we got ourselves our second kill here. It is us versus a Nassau, a Kawachi, and a South Carolina. These are 3 Tier 3 battleships. Yes, you're in a Tier 4 cruiser. Yes, you have torpedoes. No, you can't kill them all before they kill you. So I highly recommend, this is one of those times where you want to take and use island cover to break line of sight if you can. Or if nothing else, make it so that their guns can't get to you. Now, our team is spotting these guys, so I can sit here and I can lob shells over this island like it's going out of style. But they are coming around the north side of this island. It's a really bad tactic. It takes you out of the fight later, and that's not a good thing. So, you know, if you're on this map and you're in a battleship, definitely don't recommend going around any of the caps to the extremes, especially if you're in a Tier 3 battleship that has an extremely slow top speed. Okay, so we're keeping this island between us. We're not detected, which helps us, but we're going to go ahead and launch torpedoes. And my anticipation there was that the Nassau was going to turn out, and so those torpedoes were aimed in such a way that if he turned out, he was going to eat a whole bunch of them. And we're going to shoot at the South Carolina in the meantime, because the Nassau we're turning away from, and there he pops out. Okay, so he is popped out. We are going to engage him now. Torpedoes. Go torpedoes. Go torpedo. No, just barely. Oh, a little bit of a lag spike there, but man, how frustrating. Okay, so we start another fire. We're up to 7 fires in this match. 41,200 or 42,000 damage, and we're adding fires to the mix. And this is what I was talking about. You can use the guns on this ship. They have such good arcs that you can use the ship to kite or to charge at enemy ships. This is definitely not a situation where I'd recommend charging at them. Another fire started, and that was on that Nassau, which has been burning for quite a long time. I think he's already got one other fire on him, so that would be 2 fires that he is now burning. And come on, get the kill, get the kill. Yes. All right, so we got that kill. On to the next one. And now that we've got enough ships here to kind of take the heat off of me, I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna start moving. We're gonna charge this Kawachi. That South Carolina is low enough in hit points. I'm not terribly worried about him. You can kind of use these tactics if you want. You can see here I'm kind of alternating between that full left broadside and then the, you know, that number 2 turret, the partial mix there. My goal here is just to bring that rear gun into play. It just gives you 6 barrels to work with instead of 5. But as we get closer and closer, I definitely want to be cautious about how and what profile I'm presenting. We need to present a little bit of a bladed profile. If we want this guy to shoot at us, we want us to have enough of a profile there that, ooh, ouch, And there you can see we took some hits from that South Carolina as he came around. Oh, another fire in Confederate. Kick the rudder over. Kawachi misses. Thank you, Kawachi RNG. As we get close enough to launch torpedoes. And launch. Again, anticipating him to turn out, but he turns in. He repaired that fire, so... Oh, there's another fire. Ah, it went out right away, because that one doesn't count. Oh, got lucky there with that South Carolina. Didn't do a whole lot of damage to us. We are going to go ahead and we're going to traverse the other way. We've got that other torpedo tube on the other side, plus we've got these really good gun angles. He shoots. He misses. And we started him on fire yet again. This time we've got some torpedoes. Those you can see the torpedoes have a really good arc when kiting, not so much when going the other way. That's okay though. Oh, South Carolina gets a parting shot off on us, does basically scratch damage, and our Kawachi is still burning to death. And we just added yet another fire. There's a torpedo hit for the kill. We are up to 4 kills. Confederate, a dev strike with 13 fires. Alright, well, our next goal here is we do have this bogatir that needs to get... There's high caliber. We do need to get this bogatir out of this fight. And to do so, you can see I'm trying to... Well, right now I'm presenting a broadside target to him. Not exactly the smartest thing in the world. I'm trying to keep my distance because Bogatir's HE is really quite powerful. He is knee-deep in a fight with another ship, and he's not really paying attention to me, which is fine by me. We're just going to go ahead and we're going to continue to pelt him with 6-inch shells as the guns come up off of cooldown. He is burning, burning, burning. The one thing to pay attention to is you know, our range is 13... Ah! Kraken Unleashed! There's the 5th kill. Now, this next part, we're in a, you know, we're low enough in hit points that I don't want to go charging across the open water in B to try and get up close to get to those islands. I kind of want to take, and I want to use this island for cover. Now, we're at 80,629 damage, so as you can imagine, nothing really progresses from here. We have 974 of the capture points, and we are in the process of capping their only cap, so this game is basically over. But had this game continued, I would have stayed behind this island and used the island as a line of sight break to keep myself from receiving and being detected and receiving any enemy fire. And there is the end of the game. So we got ourselves a Kraken Unleash, 80,628 damage, 15 fires, 1,446 base XP. There's the damage report. You can see most of our damage was done via HE shell hits. No citadel hits. Didn't really use any AP in that match. But you can use AP, especially if you've got yourself a tier 3 to tier 5 cruiser that's broadside. It's not a protected cruiser. Other Phoenixes or Omahas. I've nearly one-shot Omahas before in a Phoenix. But anyway, I really do like the Phoenix. It's a great ship. You guys know the drill. Like, comment, subscribe, and thank you for watching.